The story starts with a tense moment. A desperate man is frantically searching for a rare medicinal plant that could save his mother's life. It's an ancient time in South Korea. Just when his hope is thinning out like cheap soup, a mysterious girl named Imugi appears in front of him. She looks human, but she isn't. She is actually a Korean legend, Gumeo. She calmly asks him for an address, and before he can even process her presence, she vanishes into thin air. The poor man nearly jumps out of his skin, convinced he has just encountered a ghost. And honestly, if someone disappeared mid-conversation in front of me, I'd probably relocate to another city. But Imugi returns just as suddenly as she left. This time, she tells him that the plant he has been searching for, the one that could cure his mother, is right where he needs to look. Then she disappears again. Relief floods through him because finally, there is hope. Yet at the same time, fear wraps around him tighter than his own shadow. Who was she? We then meet another being like Imugi, a Gumeo girl named Shin. She is preparing for her wedding to a human. When Imugi arrives and recognizes her aura of sadness, she waits until everyone leaves, reveals her true form, and the two friends begin talking freely. Shin excitedly confesses how she used to sneak out to meet her lover under the excuse of going to the market, and now she's actually marrying him. And when she hugs her, it's finally revealed that he is a Korean legend, nine-tailed fox. But suddenly, while everyone is outside for Shin's wedding, Imugi experiences a terrifying vision. She sees Imugi's future after marriage, and it's bleak. Pain, suffering, disappointment. Nothing good awaits her friend. Back in the present, Imugi is visibly disturbed. How can she tell her that this marriage will ruin her life? The scene shifts briefly to the present timeline, where a wounded boy lies tied up and injured. Watching him, Imugi reflects bitterly that human life is nothing but struggle and sorrow before death eventually claims them anyway. She thinks she would never choose to become human. Still, she admits that the chaos unfolding in her life began 9 years ago. The story rewinds to 2016. A basketball match is in full swing, and a foreign scout is present to select players for the national team. All eyes should be on a rich player named Dong, but instead, attention locks onto one extraordinary player named Salman. He plays so brilliantly that the scout is visibly impressed. However, after the game, his coach violently scolds and beats him for daring to perform so well. The coach had ordered him to hold back. Salman comes from a poor background and can't even pay his basketball fees on time, so he silently endures the humiliation and abuse. Meanwhile, another player, Dong, whose father helps distribute food to the team, is treated far better. But Salman refuses food, so Dong's father discreetly gives extra money to the coach to ensure his son receives special care. In another place, we meet Leon, a wealthy and powerful businessman who owns a massive company and happens to be morally rotten. While riding in his car, he hears criticism of his company on the radio. His driver panics and switches it off, fearing Leon's reaction. Leon coldly questions why it was turned off and demands to hear it. The driver grows even more nervous, misses a red light in his panic, and slams the brakes. Leon falls forward and mutters ominously that it must be the driver's unlucky day. Later, when Leon arrives at an important meeting, we discover he had brutally beaten that same driver with his shirt still stained with blood. Before entering the room full of other rich elites negotiating a construction deal, he calmly changes his clothes. But the meeting takes a surreal turn. Instead of a presentation video loading on the screen, Imugi appears. She greets them casually and announces that she loves money just as much as they do. With a simple snap of her fingers, she places them under her control. She proposes that all of them will proceed with the deal, but in a way that benefits her too. She instructs them to follow her, and like obedient puppets, and invest in Leon's company, only as this way she will get benefited too. At night, we return to Salman. He spots his grandmother pulling a scrap cart through the streets. He lives with her because no one knows where his parents are. Their financial condition is miserable, but Salman lies cheerfully, telling her that everyone at the basketball court loves him and considers him a star. His grandmother beams with pride. During the day, Salman works tirelessly as a delivery boy, going house to house, never complaining. One day, near a football ground, he meets Dong again, the rich player. They talk and play together before grabbing food outside a convenience store. Dong admires Salman's relentless energy, noting how he practices sports during the day and works delivery at night without ever seeming tired. Salman smiles and shares his life story, speaking lovingly of his grandmother. Elsewhere, Imugi meets Leon. It turns out she fulfills the wishes of wealthy clients in exchange for money. Leon questions her power, mocking her. He suggests that if she truly possesses such strength, she should prove it. Annoyed, she shoves him off a height just enough for him to taste fear and understand her power. She clarifies that she cannot do genuinely good deeds because that would turn her into a human, and killing someone would strip her of her powers entirely. As Leon's phone buzzes non-stop with security calls, she assures him that the deal is already handled and her payment has been deducted directly from his account. Later, Imugi goes shopping and randomly approaches a girl, asking her to be her friend for the day. When the girl refuses, Imugi snaps her fingers and brings her under control. During shopping, Imugi reveals her true identity as a Gumio. The girl hesitantly asks whether Gumios eat human livers, referencing movie stereotypes. A flashback shows how films portray Gumios as monstrous liver eaters, but in reality, they do no such thing. Over dinner, Imugi shares stories of her long life, watching the world evolve. When she first tried learning English, she understood nothing, so she snapped her fingers and transformed her teacher's language into a blend of Korean and English. One time, dissatisfied with a book's ending, she marched to the writer and forced him to rewrite it. When she kept losing to children in a game, she snapped again and made them intentionally lose. She has bent the world to her will for years. The girl finally gathers courage to say that constantly changing things you dislike removes the joy of living, and maybe that's why Imugi has no real friends. Furious, Imugi snaps again, and the girl immediately starts praising her greatness. Meanwhile, Dong attempts to buy Salman a new pair of basketball shoes. Salman angrily refuses, insisting he may be poor, but he is not a beggar. As he storms off, he accidentally collides with Imugi and falls hard. She scolds him harshly for not watching where he's going. As she looks at both boys, she sees another vision of the future. One of them will become an incredibly famous football star, with banners everywhere and videos playing globally, but we couldn't clearly see which one. Smirking, Imugi murmurs that it is fascinating how one of them is destined for stardom, and she plans to make him her client someday, fulfilling his wish for a prize. The girl she brought along pleads for her own wish to be granted, reminding Imugi that they are friends now. Imugi rolls her eyes internally, thinking humans truly never learn. Bored, she snaps her fingers once more and erases all of the girl's memories from that day. And just as she is about to walk away, a star god appears. He steps forward, as if he has been watching everything from the edges of the sky, and calmly asks to speak with Imugi. She walks beside him without hesitation and says she already knows what he is about to suggest, that she should become human, like the rest of the Gumios. But no matter what happens, she declares firmly, she will never become human. As she turns to leave, the star god questions how her scale on the earth could possibly be tilting like this. He explains that if the balance does not stabilize, only two outcomes remain. Either she will disappear from this world forever, or she will be forced to become human. Imugi refuses to listen. She insists that she has worked far too hard to maintain that balance and storms away in anger. That same night, Solomon and Dong are playing together. Solomon isn't upset. They are still close friends. Suddenly, the ball flies off course and smacks straight into Imugi, knocking her head. Solomon suggests ending the game and tells Dong to head home while he retrieves the ball and returns it before leaving himself. When Solomon goes searching, he spots Imugi. He recognizes her as the girl from the mall and asks if she remembers him. Without a word, she crushes the football in her hand. Solomon stares in disbelief, wondering how she managed that. She casually remarks that the ball had hit her head and that she could not harm a weak human like him, so she simply destroyed the ball instead. Solomon bristles with anger. He demands to know why she keeps calling him weak, points at his athletic build, and reminds her that he is an athlete destined for greatness. Imugi coldly replies that he should forget about having a future in football because the one who will become famous is his friend, Dong, the boy who was with him earlier. After all, she had seen the future, and in her vision, it was not Solomon who stood under the spotlight. A heated argument sparks between them. Meanwhile, Leon is elsewhere. enjoying himself and drinking far too much. Completely drunk and driving at full speed, he loses control and slams into Dong on the road, who was going home. The impact is brutal, and Dong collapses unconscious. Leon, dazed, looks up, and meanwhile, Inugi calmly states that someone has been in an accident. Solomon rushes outside and freezes in horror when he sees his friend lying unconscious on the road. He also spots Leon, whose face reflects pure panic, silently asking himself what he has just done. Leon flees the scene, but it is too late. Dong is rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Solomon reports everything to the police. The officer reassures him that they will trace the car owner soon. Just then, the same driver we saw earlier, the one Leon had brutally beaten, arrives and shockingly takes the blame, claiming he was driving his boss's car when the accident happened. Everyone is stunned. In truth, he has been threatened into doing this. Solomon explodes in anger, insisting that the man is lying. He knows the face he saw that night, and it was not this driver. Chaos breaks out at the station. Meanwhile, Leon's secretary informs him that a boy saw him at the accident site and that the police are calling him in for questioning. Panicking, Leon digs out the wish card Imugi had given him. The moment he burns it, she appears. She looks irritated and reminds him that she already granted one wish, so she cannot immediately fulfill another. She needs a break. Leon quickly explains the situation and begs for her help, offering double the payment. Money softens her resistance, and she agrees. At the hospital, Solomon arrives to see Dong, but is startled to find Imugi already sitting there. She asks why he looks surprised. He tries to speak, but she tells him to forget whatever he saw last night. Suddenly, she sees another vision of the future. This time, the famous athlete, the wealthy and successful star, is Solomon himself. Her eyes widened in disbelief. She whispers that this cannot be possible. How could he switch his fate with his friends? Before she can comprehend it, an intense pain grips her chest. It is so sharp that she collapses. The star god's warning echoes in her mind that her time is running out. Solomon tries to help her, asking what is wrong. In that moment, he sees something shocking. Tails. Real, unmistakable tails behind her. When Imugi regains partial consciousness, Solomon anxiously asks if she is all right. She tells him to stay away. He hesitates, then questions whether what he just saw, the tails, was real, or if sleep deprivation is finally playing tricks on his brain. He has not slept since the accident. She snaps that she has no time to answer his ridiculous questions and attempts to walk through the hospital door as she always does by passing straight through it, but this time she crashes into it instead. She freezes in fear. Has she truly lost a portion of her powers? She quickly disappears before Solomon can follow. Imugi reappears outside a temple and tries lifting the things with her powers. They barely respond and fall clumsily back into place. Furious, she enters the temple and demands that the gods speak to her. When no one answers, she begins smashing the statues in rage. The star god arrives again, calling her incredibly rude, and effortlessly restores the broken idols. She demands to know where her missing power has gone. He reminds her that he warned her that the scale was already unstable, and now, because of her, a human life has been lost. She stands stunned. How could that be her fault? The star god explains that she fulfilled Leon's wish and saved Dong from dying in the accident. But fate must balance itself. If one life is spared unnaturally, another must be taken. Instead of Dong, Leon's driver died at Leon's hands. Every wish has a price. Elsewhere, Leon's secretary secretly disposes of the driver's body to hide the truth. Later, Solomon waits at a bus stop when Imugi suddenly appears. He nearly jumps out of his skin at the sight of her. At this point, surprise has become a regular workout for his heart. She tells him she needs to fix things and urges him to make a wish quickly. He asks if she is some kind of genie. Because of her distraction, he misses his bus and grows frustrated. She assures him not to worry and claims she can take him home in seconds. He tells her to stop acting crazy and leave. But when she grabs his hand and, in the blink of an eye, transports him to his house, his jaw practically hits the pavement. If teleportation apps existed, she would have 1 billion downloads overnight. He stammers, asking whether she is from the future or owns a time machine, since she can travel anywhere without a passport. She casually mentions she used to dine daily at a restaurant in France before returning to Korea when she got bored. Then she urges him again to make a wish. Does he not want justice for his friend? Solomon grows serious, replaying the accident in his mind. The story cuts to the police station, where Leon feels confident that Imugi must have erased all evidence. But the police reveal CCTV footage, capturing him hitting Dong and fleeing. Panic overtakes him. In the restroom, he frantically burns several wish cards, yet Imugi does not appear. Later, while in the car with his father assuring him everything will be fixed, the radio announces breaking news that Leon's driver's body has been found in the forest, and authorities suspect Leon of murder. His blood runs cold. How did they find the body? At that moment, the car swerves, and Imugi appears once more. She informs him coldly that he is no longer her client. The moment he took a human life, their contract ended. It is then revealed that Leon had bribed the driver heavily to take the blame for the accident. The driver agreed, thinking money would protect his family. But fate does not bargain. Back at the office, when the driver had dared to argue with Leon, the heated exchange spiraled out of control. In a flash of rage, Leon struck him violently on the head. It was not meant to kill, but it did. The driver died on the spot. Now, standing before Imugi, Leon pieces it together. He realizes that everything happening to him, the investigation, the evidence surfacing, the chaos, must be her doing. His voice trembles as he begs her to stop, promising unlimited money if she spares him. But Imugi is done bargaining. With a calm snap of her fingers, she casts a spell on him, one that ensures he will never be able to lie again. Not even about something as trivial as stealing a pencil in school. From now on, truth will spill out of him whether he wants it to or not. She then teleports the car straight to the police station. Leon steps out, desperately trying to stay silent. He clenches his jaw, presses his lips together, willing himself not to speak. But the magic works faster than fear, and words pour out uncontrollably. He confesses that he killed his driver. And not just that, he starts revealing other secrets too. The officers stare at him in stunned disbelief. The prosecutor quickly arrives, and Leon is arrested on the spot. Later, Imugi is seen at home. Because she corrected the distorted fate and restored balance, her power scale finally stabilizes. The imbalance that once threatened to erase her is gone. For the first time in a while, she breathes peacefully. Meanwhile, Solomon is at practice. Exhausted, he sits down only to see Imugi approaching with a suitcase. She hands it to him as a gift, casually mentioning that he will need it soon. Solomon thanks her sincerely, acknowledging that because of her, Leon is in prison. Imugi smiles and responds that she should thank him instead, that his involvement helped her rebalance her scale and regain her full powers. Curious, Solomon asks who she really is. She tilts her head playfully and tells him to guess. He thinks hard and eventually asks if she is some kind of demon. She rolls her eyes and corrects him. She is a nine-tailed fox. Understanding dawns on him. That explains the tales he saw earlier. It was not exhaustion or hallucination. But he wonders why he would need the suitcase. She explains plainly that very soon, he will become a famous international football player. Solomon frowns. Earlier, she insisted he had no future in this field. He confidently declares he will prove her wrong. She smirks and tells him she already knows the outcome. He asks for her name. Surprisingly, she tells him. She rarely reveals her name so easily, but something about Solomon feels endearing. She even smiles faintly at him. Solomon wakes up alone, and Imugi has erased his memory of ever meeting her. He looks at the mysterious suitcase, confused about who left it. Just then, he receives life-changing news that he has been selected for the international team. He is taking Dong's place because Dong cannot play. Dong is shown struggling even to walk. Solomon feels guilty seeing his condition. The two sit outside together. Dong jokingly said that Solomon is only replacing him for 1 year. He believes he will recover within 6 months and make a comeback. Until then, he asks Solomon to maintain his position with pride. Solomon promises that he will. Soon, Solomon stands at the airport, ready to leave with the foreign coach and join the international team because his destiny is shifting completely. Then the story jumps forward 9 years. It is now 2025. Imugi was resting on a private island she intended to buy. She snaps her fingers to transfer payment, but the seller informs her that no money has arrived. Shock floods her face. She wonders if she has actually spent all her wealth on shopping. Apparently, centuries of wisdom still cannot defeat a good sale season. Realizing she needs a new wealthy client, she begins looking. Elsewhere, Solomon is thriving. His team is on an unstoppable winning streak. He motivates them confidently, promising victory in the next 4 matches as well. The team, however, just wants to celebrate. He refuses firmly that there are no parties, only practice. 3 players grumble behind his back, complaining about his controlling attitude. One of them casually mentions that Solomon's contract is ending soon anyway, but immediately, breaking news appears on television that Solomon has signed a new contract. He beams with pride. Across Korea, people celebrate him as a national hero. Imugi watches the news too. She feels oddly happy for him. He truly has become famous. But Dong's life tells a different story. He wakes up to find his father throwing away his old trophies. Once a brilliant player who stood just a few points behind Solomon, Dong never managed to build a successful career after his injury. His father sighs heavily, explaining that someone else surpassed him and the world quickly forgot his name. Still, he reassures him that life is not over. 5 or 10 years can change everything. Rain suddenly begins pouring. Both of them rush outside to rescue the trophies before they get soaked. Later, Imugi walks into a store and becomes irritated seeing Solomon's face everywhere, on posters, products, advertisements. His fangirls chatter excitedly nearby. Imugi interrupts them and bluntly asks how much Solomon earns. One fan proudly explains that he receives $1 million for a single advertisement. Imugi's eyes gleam. That means he is financially perfect to become her client. However, she is surprised to see Solomon's autobiography displayed prominently. Solomon himself is on a flight back to Korea, reading his own book repeatedly, clearly proud of his journey. When he arrives, fans gather in huge numbers to welcome him. Imugi is there too. She sees him and thinks it feels good to meet after so long. But Solomon does not recognize her at all. Someone accidentally pushes her toward him, and Solomon assumes she wants his autograph on her clothes, so he casually signs her dress. She stands frozen in disbelief. Does he truly not remember her face? He even winks at her playfully before leaving. Annoyed, Imugi snaps open his bag in front of everyone, scattering its contents. Solomon panics, confused about how it happened. She walks up to him, damages his book deliberately, and warns him not to mistake her for a fan again. Before leaving, she slips a wish card into his bag. Solomon is left wondering who this strange girl was. She carried herself like the celebrity, not him. Meanwhile, Dong now works a delivery job, the same kind Solomon once did. Solomon messages him, saying he is back in Korea and wants to meet. At home, Solomon finally relaxes until Imugi suddenly appears inside his house. He is shocked and demands to know how she entered. He warns her that such behavior could land her in jail. She smiles confidently and remarks that no one capable of imprisoning her has been born yet. With another snap, she restores his erased memories. Everything returns. He remembers her from 9 years ago, the nine-tailed fox. She hands him a wish card, stating she wants him as her client and urging him to make any wish he desires. Solomon thinks seriously. Then he says he does not need anything. He already has everything. Imugi bursts into laughter and calls him ridiculous. People beg her to grant wishes, and he cannot think of one? She asks whether a family member is sick. He calmly explains that his parents are gone and his grandmother passed away years ago. Imugi grows increasingly frustrated. How can someone truly want nothing? Just then, the doorbell rings. And before he can say another word, she disappears. Solomon shakes his head in disbelief and mutters that she always disappears without saying goodbye. When he opens the door, he finds Dong standing there. The sight of him is enough to wipe the color from Solomon's face. Dong looks worn out, defeated in a way that feels heavier than exhaustion. Solomon quickly asks about his recent games. Dong quietly replies that he has been removed from the team. Solomon stares at him, confused. He asks whether he has retired. Dong shakes his head and explains that he was simply let go. Nothing dramatic, he is just discarded. Solomon cannot believe it. He demands to know why Dong never told him. Dong admits he did not want to embarrass himself. He says he is tired of this life, tired of constantly falling short. As he speaks, his eyes land on the wish card lying nearby. He picks it up and asks what it is. A thought sparks in Solomon's mind. He hands the card over and suggests Dong use it. He explains that any wish made with it will come true. Dong listens in stunned silence, unsure whether Solomon has finally lost his mind or discovered something extraordinary. The scene shifts abruptly. Dong is now sitting on an airplane, staring around in confusion. He has no idea how he got there. When a flight attendant politely hands him a book and addresses him by name, his shock deepens. He asks how she knows who he is. She smiles and replies that everyone in Korea knows him. Dong sits frozen in his seat, trying to process that sentence. At the same time, Solomon wakes up in Dong's house. He looks around, utterly confused about how he ended up there. When he steps outside, Imugi appears. He demands to know what she has done. She calmly replies that another one of his wishes has been granted. Solomon protests that he never made a wish. She explains that making the wish is his job. Deciding how to fulfill it is hers. In the flashback, Solomon asks Dong if he has any wish at all. Dong refuses and walks away. The next day, Solomon arrives at his company, only to be informed by his assistant that they have been cheated. The national company has refused his transfer request. Solomon is frustrated. He tries to resolve it through the foreign representative, but nothing works. The assistant suggests they must go to the UK personally to fix the issue. Just as they prepare to leave, Solomon remembers that it is his grandmother's death anniversary. He tells his assistant to go ahead without him. At the grave, Dong is already there, apologizing softly that Solomon could not come because he is always busy. Suddenly, Solomon appears, saying he could never miss this day. Dong smiles with quiet relief. They sit together and talk. Solomon expresses gratitude that while he was away, Dong took care of his grandmother. He even offers financial help if Dong needs it. Dong admits that he does need money now, as his situation is no longer stable, but he refuses the offer. He says that accepting money would destroy their friendship, and he would not be able to meet Solomon's eyes afterward. Solomon then confides that his coach is cheating him. Dong listens, troubled. As Solomon prepares to leave, the wish card slips from his wallet. Dong picks it up and questions how Solomon can believe in such things. At that moment, Solomon remembers Imugi. She is the only one who can fix his problems. He burns the card, calling her. For a moment, nothing happens. Then she appears suddenly before them. Both are stunned. She smirks and says she knew he would call because humans are greedy. Solomon states his wish clearly. The story cuts to the foreign official who had been resisting Solomon's transfer. As he walks down the street, Imugi appears before him. With a snap of her fingers, she takes control of him and instructs him to approve the transfer. Shortly after, he meets Solomon's assistant and agrees. The problem is solved. Dong, still bewildered, asks who she really is. Solomon explains that she is a nine-tailed fox and that she forced Leon to confess his crimes. Without her, Leon would never have gone to prison. Dong struggles to absorb all of this. Suddenly, Solomon's phone alerts him. Large amounts of money are being deducted from his account non-stop because Imugi is simply collecting her fee. Magic, apparently, does not accept delayed payments. Soon after, Solomon receives confirmation from his assistant that everything is officially fixed. He feels immense relief. Now that Dong believes in magic, he asks Solomon for a favor. He wants to join the national team too. Solomon considers it a good idea and takes Dong to Imugi. They explain everything. Imugi refuses. She says she cannot help Dong because he has nothing to offer her in return. Solomon insists he will pay on Dong's behalf. She warns him that if he uses his own payment for Dong's wish, it becomes his wish and the consequences will fall on him. He reminds her that when she first helped him, she did not charge money because she was correcting her own imbalance. She explains she cannot perform excessively good or evil deeds. There are rules. But Solomon's tone grows sharper. He challenges her, suggesting that perhaps this task is beyond her capabilities and that she is only a nine-tailed fox in name. Her expression changes. She says she had been friendly until now. If he wants to speak casually and disrespectfully, then she will show him what she is truly capable of. However, he must be prepared to pay the price. Solomon agrees without hesitation. The scene cuts, and Solomon is on a flight to the UK again. At the same time, Dong sits at home when suddenly everything around him begins to shake. Objects tremble violently. We then see reality rearranging itself. Scenes replay but with positions swapped. Solomon's life and Dong's life are switching entirely. The accident that once happened to Dong now happens to Solomon. The timelines twist and overlap. We see Solomon waking up in Dong's house again, confused. Imugi appears and tells him she fulfilled his wish. She reminds him that fulfilling it her way is her right. She adds casually that she cannot talk now because another client is waiting. Solomon still does not understand what has happened. He asks where Dong is. She replies cryptically that Dong is exactly where Solomon was meant to be. The story then shows Dong experiencing the fame Solomon once had. He is on the plane, shocked that the flight attendant recognizes him and that the entire country knows his name. Meanwhile, at Solomon's new reality, Dong's old home, some rough-looking boys arrive. They forcefully drag Solomon away, insisting he must apologize to the coach. On the other side, Imugi meets another wealthy client who greets her with her favorite pastries. She seems pleased. When she asks for his wish, he explains that he did not call her for a wish this time. Instead, he wants to show her something. He takes her to his museum and reveals that a dagger she used to admire has disappeared overnight. Imugi stands frozen in shock and growing anxiety as Kim asks about the dagger, and slowly she begins telling its story, about a girl who was not her blood sister yet closer than family, someone she had lived beside for years. That sister had fallen in love, chosen to become human, and married a man. But happiness did not last long because trouble soon hunted her down, and she was forced to flee with her husband and infant child. And when an arrow was about to strike her, Imugi had stopped it mid-air with magic, arriving just in time to save her. Later, desperate to undo fate, she prepared a ritual blade with the help of a man, hoping to reverse everything. When the star god appeared to stop her, she fought back angrily and accused him of refusing help even after she had revealed her sister's future. He calmly answered that once her sister had chosen to become human, divine interference was no longer possible. Still unwilling to surrender, Imugi declared she knew how to fix it herself. She went to her sister, who was hiding with her family, and handed her the ritual dagger. She explained that if she killed her human husband with it, she would transform back into a Gumio and escape the suffering of mortal life. Yet instead of accepting, her sister stood stunned and softly asked for one wish to be granted. When Imugi agreed, she demanded that Imugi never appear before her again, shattering Imugi's heart. In the present, she admits that the dagger was the last thing she ever gave her sister and the only weapon capable of killing her. Meanwhile, Solomon, now trapped in Dong's switched life, is dragged by Dong's friends to apologize to a furious coach because Dong had once punched him. Solomon, unaware of any backstory, worsens the situation with his arrogant responses until the coach throws him off the team. Solomon then sarcastically accuses everyone of filming a YouTube prank, saying that surely meeting a celebrity like him must be exciting, leaving the boys staring at him as though he has lost his sanity. Elsewhere, Imugi checks CCTV footage but finds nothing. She controls the guard, who reveals that a man stole the dagger before suddenly collapsing dead. Upon examining him, she realizes a human has used magic. Kim worries aloud, yet Imugi replies coolly that the ones plotting to kill her have not yet arrived. At the same time, Leon has completed his prison sentence and reunites with his mysterious friend Cheol. Cheol's backstory unfolds. Because Imugi once cursed Leon to always speak the truth, he accidentally exposed fellow inmates' secrets and suffered brutal beatings until Cheol intervened with his own magic, knocking everyone unconscious. Later, Cheol handed Leon a talisman that removed the truth spell and promised they would work together after his release, admitting he too is human but possesses powers. Now in the present, Cheol reveals his true mission. He seeks the nine-tailed fox who casts the spell, and with Leon's help, he plans to kill her. Meanwhile, in the museum, Imugi summons a painter in a painting to draw the face of the person who stole the dagger. On the other hand, Solomon went to his apartment, but he was stunned to see that there was a woman who lived there. Solomon ignores the guard's warning and steps into the house, only to finally realize that it's not his home. From the jail, Sheol brought Leon to his place, and he unveils a trap and summons a monstrous black dog forged from his magic. He explains that since Leon's blood still carries the fox's trace, the beast can track her scent. Then he deliberately cuts Leon's hand so the dog can begin hunting. Simultaneously in the UK, Dong arrives to roaring crowds screaming his name, while his proud father calls him his hero. Meanwhile, poor Solomon lands in jail for breaking into an apartment he believed was his own, only to learn it no longer belongs to him. Imugi appears at the station, bends an officer to her will, and confirms through a painter's sketch that Sheol is the dagger thief. She then confronts Solomon and bluntly tells him he still does not understand anything. She reveals that she has switched his destiny with Dong's because his wish was for his friend to become a national player. He protests in disbelief and asks why she would do this to him. She replies coldly that she deals with arrogant men exactly this way. When he begs to reverse everything and even offers more money, she reminds him he is no longer her client. She philosophically adds that if one person wants the throne, another must give it up. Crowns do not multiply like discount coupons at a supermarket, Solomon. However, she admits there is one way to fix it. She takes him invisibly to Dong's UK home and shows how happily Dong lives this borrowed dream life. Dong is fully aware that the trophies and glory are not truly his, yet he chooses to hold on to them without once thinking of Solomon. Solomon's heart quietly breaks. Finally, she returns him to jail and tells him the only path back is if Dong willingly gives up this dream and makes a wish for Solomon to reclaim his life. Judging by how tightly people cling to their dreams, that miracle feels almost impossible. Imugi folds her arms and says, almost teasingly, "That fine, she will still make Solomon her client, but before that she must teach him some manners." Solomon blinks at her in confusion and wonders what she means by manners and what more she possibly plans to do. She only smiles in response. Solomon shivers inside a jail cell until an officer informs him that he has been bailed out. The coach arranged it. Outside, the coach speaks as if expecting gratitude, but Solomon's mind is elsewhere. The coach adds that Solomon does not need to apologize. He understands his pain and will generously give him a chance to play in the 4th division. The words hit like a slap. A former national player, always in the 1st division, now reduced to the 4th tier. Solomon walks away in tears, feeling as though his entire identity has been stripped away, and lurking in the distance, the monstrous black dog silently follows him. Desperate, Solomon calls Dong. On the other side, Dong sounds overjoyed, saying he is finally living his dream as a national player. Solomon hurriedly explains the truth that their destinies have switched. Dong falls silent in shock and asks what happens now. Solomon tells him that the nine-tailed fox said everything can return to normal if Dong makes a wish. He urges him to look around for the card. Dong sees it lying right there but lies. He says there is no card and quickly ends the call. The truth is clear that he does not want to give up this life. When he looks at his father asking excitedly about buying a new car and then asks whether he is happy, his father replies with overwhelming pride that he has never been happier. Dong's new life unfolds like a dream montage, signing contracts. He was meeting powerful figures he once only saw on a phone screen, stepping into a massive stadium for the first time with tears in his eyes, because this was always his dream. Even while shopping joyfully with his father, Solomon's calls keep coming. Finally, Dong answers and asks for just 1 month. Let things stay like this for 1 month, then he promises to return Solomon's life. After cutting the call, Solomon collapses emotionally, shouting and crying inside a bus, feeling betrayed in a way that stings deeper than any loss. He rushes home, grabs his passport, and heads to the airport only to discover it has expired. He cannot leave the country. The universe seems to be mocking him. Right on cue, Imugi appears, teasing that she thought their friendship was strong, yet Dong abandoned him without hesitation. Solomon demands to know why she is doing this. She calmly replies that she is teaching him manners. Broken and humbled, Solomon finally folds his hands in genuine respect. She observes the shame in his eyes and tells him not to worry. She will fix everything by tomorrow. After she leaves, Solomon vows never to make another wish from her again, no matter what. Unbeknownst to him, Chiel watches from a distance. As Solomon walks outside, he mistakes a car for a taxi and gets inside. It is Chiel's vehicle, filled with strange idols and ritual objects. Solomon nervously asks if he entered the wrong car. Chiel assures him he did not, then uses magic to knock him unconscious. When Solomon wakes, he finds himself in a hidden location with Chiel and Leon. Leon searches his pockets, but finds no magic card. Chiel demands to know why Solomon cannot summon the fox. Solomon explains he is no longer her client, someone else is. Chiel orders him to call that person or face consequences. Solomon repeatedly calls Dong, but when he realizes they intend to lure Imugi only to kill her, he refuses to cooperate. Dong answers but cuts the call quickly, disturbed that they are planning murder. Chiel coldly says they have other ways to summon her, and Leon strikes Solomon hard on the head, leaving him bleeding. At home, Imugi is casually preparing tea with magic when suddenly her power flickers. Objects crash to the floor. She checks her power scale. It is trembling again because Solomon's life is in danger due to her actions. Without hesitation, she rushes to him. She finds him unconscious and bleeding. Leon and Chiel step forward. Chiel greets her with satisfaction, finally face to face with the nine-tailed fox. Imugi recognizes him instantly as the shaman whose sketch she obtained, the one who stole the ritual dagger. She tries to leave but realizes she is trapped inside Cheol's carefully constructed barrier. Cheol proudly displays the ritual dagger and without delay stabs her. Leon and Chiel celebrate, believing it was absurdly easy. Elsewhere, the star god watches with concern, quietly stating that his time in the human world is ending. But back at the trap, Chiel's triumph fades when the real Imugi appears behind them. The one they stabbed was merely a puppet. She coolly asks if they truly thought she was that simple. While they investigated her background, she investigated him. Through police records and her own research, she discovered his past, his type of shamanic magic, and even visited his ruined old house, where restless spirits revealed his strengths and weaknesses in exchange for freedom. Chiel stands stunned as she demonstrates her power, lifting Leon and throwing him aside, breaking free from the trap entirely. Chiel asks whether she will kill him now. She refuses, stating that his remaining lifespan is short anyway, and that killing a human would risk turning her into one. Instead, she teleports both Chiel and Leon far away onto an empty road. Then she returns to Solomon. Seeing him kidnapped because of her decisions fills her with quiet guilt. Blood continues to flow from his head. He has only seconds left. To save him, she may need to defy the natural balance again, and doing so could cost her dearly. The story ends on that unbearable question: will she save him or let fate claim its price?